closer here than it was there. This was if you remember the other plan, they had the big gym on the south end, they had the cafeteria, and then had a small multi-purpose space that wasn't even a full gym. So
the original one, the gym was in the center.
There's two gyms. One was
In the center.
one was in the middle of.
In the middle of
But if you
between.
look where it was, the big one was on the south end. You had the dining area, and then you had a multi-purpose area next to
The south end of that
Yes.
property was for the lower grades.
correct. But the way that I'm saying, the way things were laid out in the original plan, I don't even know if we had enough gym space to have the number of classes that we want to have. Right, to have two gym classes going on, that is a better use of space. And essentially, when you look at these hallways, you know, this is essentially just folding the hallway back on itself. It's just not extending. Imagine just taking that long hallway and you're folding back, and now you're just using that space for different purposes versus long walks. So that's how you can be more efficient and effective with that versus having everybody there. And it lengthens, obviously, the
If
space.
you talk about efficiency and effectiveness, that original plan had the outside public coming through an office.
Mhm.
And then that office, then from there, it did not go through the cafeteria, which I find very objectionable for multitude of reasons. For safety, somebody does get in with a pistol, handgun, whatever. You got kids eating there. I find it, if mom and dad are coming to pick up their kid, they got to go to the office to hear what the problem was. They walk out with that kid. All the eyes of the kids sitting there at the cafeteria tables looking at them. It's embarrassing. And I just find it, why in an $88 million building are we walking through a cafeteria to get to the central part of it? This is just blowing my mind. That we have to walk through this.
Most people will not be walking through there.
Well, then how are they going to get into the building? They're going to have to clear the front office clearance.
Yeah, people will be there. The thing that drops something off, they drop it off. They don't need to go into the building.
Well, a lot of times they do. They need to
And
go
they
talk
do.
to the principal in the principal's office. They're
And
going to
the
have to
principal
cut through here.
And again, we have the conference rooms are there. The principal could come to them.
Okay.
The principal can have those meetings there away from the office where you have all these kids, all these parents, all these phone calls and other things going
The
on.
parents
They
to
have
get in
privacy.
are going to have to go through that front entrance. And if there happens to be activities in that cafeteria, a lot of these kids know the parents. It's not ideal. It's just not ideal. You look at the high school, it's great. They walk in, they can come through the front doors, they can take a quick left, they're in the principal's office. Those kids are all doing their thing in the cafeteria, their classrooms. They don't even know who came in that door. They didn't even see it. It's more conducive to privacy, dignity, etc.
The high school is not a safe entryway. And that's something that's probably going to be worked on because the OC recognizes that.
Well, that I'm not here I can't, I'm not going to be able to just say that one way or the other. But what I'm seeing here is that what's really happening here on a large scale, if I look at this more from a business model, we are taking our traditional school system and gearing it toward a student-centered teaching environment. That's what's happening here. We are moving further away from a teacher-led classroom. And we are incorporating all of this word salad wonderfulness of how we're going to have our students be critical thinkers and lead themselves and be student-centered. And teachers, okay, go back in your little pod, go in that group. When you get your things, come here and tell me what your results were. And in order to create and keep facilitating that student-centered environment, this is what we've come up with. So this is at the very core of Tipp City educational system, and I don't think the public really understands it. If it's right, and if it's good, and it's effective, then the good business model is to share it with the community and get their input and support. The bad business model is to design it, steer it, mold it, implement it, and then inform the public of what happened. That's really bad business.
Can I
Yeah, there's not, this is just an opening to the extended learning area.
Okay.
We want everything, again, there where they're at. So we want to include them in everything possible. So that whether it's the Life's kids that are in the multi-handicap room, we want them with their peers. We want every kid with their peers to be able to have access to those things. So as those things change, maybe they can't be in every class.
Sure.
But they could be in some. And then we can look to continue pushing it. And the more, to me, the more they're part of that, the more they're around. They're not in a back corner. They're not in a
Closet?
closet. The more then they're seen and they're being part of that class. And that's something that, again, you talk about, it's not something that we just said, no, we're not dealing with. We want to be intentional about those things, and it's for all our kids.
One thing that came up after the meeting this morning was somebody had mentioned that there's no plans currently as far as locker space for the students. Is there any validity to that comment?
Locker space is being addressed and will be addressed with teachers, depending on the grade level. If you look in the picture, you actually see, I believe you have lockers. You see some lockers around the outside of the, again, it's easy to tell. There's locker spaces and there's mobile cubbies and things like that, depending on the grade level. Again, different, whether they're inside, outside the classroom, there's things like that
Lockers are noisy.
that have, things. Typically, I'd say in the lower grades, you're looking at probably some type of cubbies. That's typically how most classrooms in the elementary have cubbies inside the classroom for things. So those are all things that will be had. We've seen some of those things. I think could be if we were to see some big boom, a classroom could be made just like we did with LT ball. But right now the numbers aren't indicating those things. Numbers are not 200 a class. So, but that could change depending on what goes on.
And, okay, I guess I just have a question, because I voted yes to pass this because I am not of the belief, I've heard lots of older people in the community say, well, we suffered through the no air conditioning in Broadway, so why can't you? I was one of the kids that suffered through the no air conditioning in Broadway. I'm not of that belief system. I do think that there does need to be a new school. But I voted yes because I read a Dayton Daily News article that outlined the plans that that Ann's been talking about this whole time. And I guess I just don't understand why there seems to be such an aggressive push of, we're passing this, get over it, either get on board or too bad for you. Just like last month, if there was really this upheaval in the community in the first few months of the year, and if there had really been an intention of collaboration, there should have been an olive branch extended to say, hey community, the architecture firm is coming. Please come, please give us your feedback. We'd love to hear feedback. And there doesn't seem to be any desire for feedback. It just seems to be not, here's an olive branch, but it's like, there's an olive tree over there, go pick your own olives. Or go sit over there, we don't care. And so just as somebody that voted yes to this under the assumption that it was going to be something similar to that, I guess that's my biggest frustration. And then just kind of this push of, we don't really care about the public feedback because we already have your money. And it just leaves a really sour taste and for any requests for funds going forward.
None of those have been said or voiced.
None of what?
In regards to, nobody said, hey, we're not looking for feedback, we're not looking for input. There were some changes from the December, January plan. Those were changes were done. So things were just, maybe disagree with some things, but that doesn't mean that's not listening to it.
Well, it was
The other piece is
articulated.
transparency. Again, we've had how many meetings and opportunities for this over the last year or so to get input, to get ideas. Those things have happened, and they continue to happen.
But what she had said earlier was the plans got changed as of December, and so you're saying, yes, there's feedback. Earlier in the meeting, Ms. Murray said, we changed the bathroom thing like you guys wanted, but only because, she actually said because the state law required that we changed it. Those were the words that came out of her mouth. So it wasn't a collaboration of the community giving the feedback and saying, we don't want this. It was the state law.
And I also said, I don't know if that was illegal. And as you saw, Senator Huffman's article in the paper, it wasn't illegal. So
Agree to disagree.
Yeah,
Agree
but
to
that he spelled. That's what he said in the Tipp Gazette.
But
Mr.
Can I,
Moran,
hold on, wait, can I say
that,
something really
that
quick?
took up the time. December, January, February, those
Right.
Converse communities were
when
all
you
about
got
unisex
overwhelming
bathrooms.
response from your community that we did not align ourselves with the value that was reflected in those restrooms, what you're saying right now is that you would have never changed them.
No, that's not what I said. What I said was, it wasn't because of the law that has changed. As I said, Senator Huffman said it probably meets the law. I'm saying it was changed
Why?
because of the community.
Because there was uproar?
I would
Because
say,
at all the meetings I went to, you were firmly going to stand next to restrooms where, to Ann's point, you couldn't actually identify a single person that was on board with the multi-use restrooms, whatever you called them, I can't remember.
yeah, well,
You couldn't say 5 people that said, yes, these are the restrooms that we want. Could you say them now?
if they want to speak for themselves, they can speak for themselves.
But
I'm not here,
you are
I'm
here to
telling-
speak for them.
and I'm telling you that is plenty of people have commented.
So because the
on this side.
community got aggressive enough, you were willing to change the restrooms. So if we get
No.
aggressive enough, you're gonna be maybe willing to change some of these things. If it gets noisy enough, then you're gonna be willing to change. When we come respectfully saying, because I'm looking at the 3rd floor, and I don't see where therapies are going to happen for students. I see one sensory room for the whole 3rd floor. I see one OT-PT room for the whole 3rd floor. I see one self-contained classroom, one therapist group office for the whole 3rd floor, and that's about 600 kids, including 7th and 8th graders and 6th graders, which are a really high needs group, at least for counselors and therapists to speak to. They're going through a lot of changes. I don't know if you're going to add more restrooms. I'm not sure how you're going to get 800 kids, 600 kids through 12 stalls, boys and girls, especially at the junior high level. Haven't answered if we're going to have one stairwell for the whole building or if those other ones are going to be daily use stairwells.